Chris Lee and Blayne Gilmer of Southeastern 14 here. Blayne, football season never ends in the SEC, and it's not ending in Tuscaloosa today for sure. Bill O'Brien has left Alabama, where he was the offensive coordinator, to take the same position for the Patriots to go back to the NFL. What do we make of Bill O'Brien's departure from Alabama?
Well, it's surprising, when you see two coordinators leave a program, typically you have a fan base be like, oh, what's going to happen and stuff like that. But Alabama seems to be okay with Pete Golding and Bill O'Brien being gone. And in terms of the fan reaction that I've seen out there, they kind of wanted to change there. And, I think this is best for all parties involved. Bill O'Brien gets to go back to the NFL, as you mentioned, and I think that he'll do well there. And then now Alabama gets to go out and try to find another innovative offensive mind to come in under Nick Saban, who you got to give him credit, Chris. I think I saw somewhere this is the sixth offensive coordinator in the last 8 years, something like that for Nick Saban. But you got to give him credit. He always goes out and seems to find a guy that can help Alabama put up points.
Yeah, and look, I didn't think Alabama's offenses were as awful as the fan bases thought they were. I think they finished, fourth and sixth in scoring the last couple of years. Look, it's Alabama football. I don't know what else to say. But replacements, give us some names. Tell us where you think Alabama should go. Where do you think Alabama will go?
Yeah, one name that seems to be being floated out there pretty prevalently is Greg Roman, former offensive coordinator, most recently with the Baltimore Ravens, and led that real heavy run game attack, almost what some people would call kind of a gimmicky type offense with Lamar Jackson and a lot of the option-based principles and things like that. But he did a lot of that as well in his time with the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick as his quarterback. So where your mind goes there is if Alabama, contrary to what you and I have said, we've kind of thought they might lean towards Ty Simpson. If they really believe in Jalen Milroe and want to do more of a quarterback run-oriented type offense, then Greg Roman is kind of your guy to bring in. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you see the name Joe Brady put out there. Of course, Joe Brady, put his name on the map when it came to that tremendous season that he helped LSU have in 2019 with Joe Burrow just having probably the best single season of any college quarterback in history. And if that's the case, you would have to think it would lean more towards Ty Simpson. The name Jeff Lebby is being thrown around, who was at Ole Miss, with Lane Kiffin, and now, of course, is at Oklahoma. But he's getting paid $1.5 million a year. So there's buyout issues there and things like that. Right now, Joe Brady gets paid $430,000 a year as the Bills quarterback coach, and Greg Roman's unemployed. So those are three names that are being thrown out there. And then, of course, also another name that Alabama fans would be familiar with is Jeff Scott, who famously beat Alabama in some national title games and performances as Clemson's offensive coordinator with Dabo Swinney there. And then most recently, he was the head coach at USF and has been fired there. So 3 or 4 names being floated out there. But what's your opinion on, kind of some of those being thrown around?
Well, I mean, Joe Brady is the one that I would have to think if you can get him, you get him. Given what he did at LSU, that might be the best offense in the history of college football. Greg Roman, you mentioned him. He, of course, has coached college ball. It's been at Stanford as the offensive coordinator. It's been a minute there. But I think, to me, of all the names that you mentioned, Brady sounds the most exciting given on what he's done and what he's done not in the too far distant past in college football and in the SEC.
Yeah, and I'm not in any way saying that Greg Roman can't coach a more pass-heavy type style of offense, but his track record is, hey, they're going to run the football and they're going to use the quarterback to run the football, and that would lean more towards Jalen Milroe, as I said. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which guys brought in because famously, Nick Saban has kind of held the ever since Lane Kiffin left of, okay, the system is the system. You're going to come in and adapt to our terminology, our system, all that kind of stuff. You're going to be calling the plays, but you're going to be doing it very much so in the manner that we want you to and we're accustomed to for continuity. And I guess, Chris, that's really the only way that you can kind of keep doing what Saban's doing, changing offensive coordinators very frequently, it seems like, but yet maintaining that continuity in your offense by keeping the terminology the same, by keeping a lot of the principles the same. I'm sure everybody puts their own, thumbprint and own tweaks on it, but so that would be interesting as well. Does a guy like Greg Roman mesh with that? And Joe Brady, he kind of had free reign when he came in there to LSU. That was part of the deal there. And I know there was another coordinator on staff during that time, but we all know that Joe Brady was pulling the strings there. So how are these personalities going to mesh with the goat over there and Nick Saban and how he wants things done?
All right, I'm going to turn the tables on you. I ask you a question with a follow-up question. If you were Nick Saban, you're making the pick. I'd presume money is not much of an obstacle to Alabama, given the 14,000 analysts on staff and the ability to snag big names pretty much every time there's an opening. What do you do?
The name I mentioned in the middle there, I think is kind of the best of both worlds in Jeff Lebby. If I could go out and get Jeff Lebby away from Oklahoma, that's what I would do. And here's why: because you see Lane Kiffin, who was the big driving factor in Alabama's offensive revolution back in 2014, 2015. Well, he's been with Lane Kiffin and also puts a premium on being able to remain physical in the run game, run the football, but still is explosive in the passing game, has been in the thick of things recruiting in the SEC West, because people forget in college it's not just designing schemes and all that kind of stuff. You got to be out on the road. You got to be recruiting.
Yep.
You got to have relationships. Jeff Lebby already has those in the SEC West. Joe Brady, he's an exciting offensive mind, a guy that they could probably get, in my opinion, maybe cheaper, because he is, his salary is lower right now than Jeff Lebby's of what he's currently making. But he's not necessarily going to be he doesn't have a track record of being in a place and staying there for a while. And, he's not necessarily maybe the best recruiter in the world out there. So Jeff Lebby, I think, is the best overall guy, and there's a reason that Oklahoma is paying him $1.5 million to do what he does up there. So that would be a huge get. And then, of course, there's the name, Chris, that is being thrown around out there. That's kind of more of the far fetched one. Cliff Kingsbury's looking for work, and he's out in Thailand sipping Mai Tais right now. They bought a one-way ticket over there. So if they could get him back in the country, maybe Nick Saban could talk to Cliff Kingsbury about working for the Crimson Tide.
I don't know. Sipping Mai Tais is a little bit easier than working for Nick Saban. So
yeah, no doubt. A lot less stress, I think, of what he's doing right now. But I mean, Jeff Lebby, listen, that was a huge hire for Venables when he got the job at Oklahoma. That would be a devastating blow to the Sooners, who, we do have to keep it in perspective. Oklahoma is coming into the SEC sooner rather than later, and we'll be playing Alabama before too long. So that's just another layer to the onion, if you will, Chris, as things go here.
Well, Alabama will have an offensive coordinator before too long, I would think. We'll be here to react to that. Best way to catch it, hit the subscribe button. If you hit the like button, that also helps us out. We've got a ton of basketball coverage basically daily right now as we do this in late January, and we're rolling at baseball coverage. We started that this morning as well. So, again, best way to get that, hit that subscribe button. For Blayne Gilmer, I'm Chris Lee. Thank you for watching us at Southeastern 14.